Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavey, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today I'm joined by sex coach Finn Deerhart and Steve Rodriguez from the Talk About Gay Sex podcast. And today we're talking about gay sex. So I feel like every moment in life was just a step on the pathway of bringing us all together.
Yes.
Namaste. And in particular, we're talking about premature ejaculation and cum control. So before it's too late, let's get started. Himeros Live is sponsored by Himeros.tv. Himeros.tv envisions a world where all gay and bisexual men experience their sex and sexuality with joy. And we make that world a reality through hot, cock-throbbing gay erotic videos. Created by Davey Wavey, Himeros.tv takes everything you love about porn, the models, the cum shots, the fucking, and combines it with authenticity, vulnerability, pleasure, and sexual exploration through videos co-created by a team of sex coaches and tantric instructors, all designed to give you the best sex of your life. Joseph says, Himeros.tv is the caviar of gay porn. It's time to join the gay porn revolution at HIMEROS. Try that again. HIMEROS.tv. Himeros.tv, it's like porn, but better. We need to figure out who this Joseph guy is that says it's the caviar of gay porn.
Yeah, that could add some, it's called the appeal to authority in philosophy.
That's what that argument, does it work?
I mean, it works for some, yeah.
Okay, good. So Steve, thank you for being here.
Yes. Glad to be here.
You have a podcast about gay sex called Talk About Gay Sex. I'm curious, like, for you, what made you want to create a podcast on the topic?
I had just been listening to podcasts so much, and when they first came out, I kind of toyed around with them years ago. But as you know, the second wave of podcasts came around. We're now in our second year. I really was just thinking of different topics, and now it seems like everyone has a podcast, which is great. But I'm happy that we got ours. We're celebrating 2 years next month. And it just, after doing a little bit of research, realized that there wasn't not that many people talking about our sexuality. So it's the obvious, talk about gay sex. I know we're going to talk about premature ejaculation, and we do a lot of that, but we tell our own personal stories. And then things that are just related to sexuality in general too. So it's not always just, one-dimensional, the obvious. And I just found that there's enough to talk about and keep it going.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, we've done for Himeros. I mean, Finn, you alone have written how many videos? It's like, there's so much conversation to be had. And even in 2019, it feels like there's still not that many people having the conversation. Like it still feels taboo, or there's still such a need for this. So kudos for you for doing such great work.
Yeah, I haven't heard it either. I'm excited to check it out myself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I found myself just kind of sitting in my own apartment certain nights and sharing with friends our sexuality, or just things that we were, fun banter back and forth about our gay sex experiences, but realized that in a conversation, we could help each other. But then, obviously we have experts on the show sometimes too, that break down a little bit more serious matters. We've had proctologists on, sex experts that talk about the mental side of it. So, and then I have my co-hosts, and my two co-hosts are of different age groups. So I think they add a lot to the whole conversation.
Yeah, you did an episode about our obsession, gay men's obsession with gay porn, and you had a gay porn star on as a guest. What are some of the things that surprised you about that conversation?
I think the one that you're talking about is Dre Axtell, if I'm not. Yeah, and I think he was just as funny as any one of us in terms of, like, he likes his porn too. He consumes it exactly the way we do. But, and then on the other hand, I think Yeah, I mean, we really opened up about like what turns us on gay porn wise. And this, of course, was when Tumblr was still active and people were sharing links and like that. But yeah, from a porn star perspective, Dre Axtell, he just cracked me up because I think he just also consumes his porn in the same way we all do too. And it wasn't that much. He just produces it more. So
yeah, well, that's funny to me because as someone who now creates like gay erotic content, like it's really hard for me. Like once you know how the sausage is made, right? Like it's kind of hard to, no pun intended. It's kind of difficult to enjoy it in the same way. And like it just, to me, a lot of gay porn comes across as like contrived and fake, and to me it like takes some of the excitement out of it. And yet when we film some of these scenes with models, Finn, I know that you experienced this with me, when the models are trying to get like into the mood and turned on, a lot of times they'll like pull up gay porn on their phones and and like they'll be sitting there like watching it, jerking off, trying to get themselves aroused. So it's interesting though that it hasn't changed his relationship. Has that conversation that you had with him changed your relationship with porn, or do you still enjoy it in the same way?
Yeah, I don't watch, believe it or not, I don't watch like a ton of porn myself. But no, the conversation didn't. I think that's why it was, even the way we labeled it, our obsession with porn was a little skewed, and partly because I labeled it that way. I definitely though, like, have enjoyed it. My goodness, countless times, but I think I've just tried to explore other areas, whether it's just with real people or just playing with toys, and tried to take it off of just always, the easy access of porn.
Right. Finn, has it changed your relationship with porn, like the content that we filmed?
It actually has, in a couple of ways, and that's kind of a multi-layered question. I like that too, because I really do feel like it's important in the context of what just really has been happening with social media and Tumblr, that porn occupies a very important space out there, and by way of permission and giving people access and permission in a way to contact stuff inside themselves and express. And it's also what I consider kind of a digital library that exists out in space of like our own desires that we just project onto other people. So in my own journey where I'm at right now, I have different questions in myself around what I'm interested in exploring. And that's one of the reasons I love Himeros videos, is because I'm not necessarily watching them for the same reason. So being on set with them, it did shift. It was like a confirmation for me, where I saw like, what we were just describing as like a derivative experience, like here's this guy in front of you, and then the connection is feeling challenged. So I'm going to, pull away and get on my phone and whack off, which is like, to me, it's derivative of what's actually available in the moment. But for me to see that, it confirmed for me that where I'm at in my own process around it, it highlighted what's important to me and what I want to explore in myself, So it's not to, say, ooh, porn isn't good. It's just I think it's important to know like what questions is it raising, what purpose is it serving, and it has changed for me.
Yeah. The mission of Himeros TV is to enhance gay men's experience of sex and sexuality through, let's see if I get this, exploration, connection, and pleasure. Yes.
Just don't spell it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, in a nutshell, it's about inspiring gay men to have great sex. And I think, Steve, I'm particularly interested in this with you. Like, as someone who talks about sex as much as I do you feel like you're really having great sex? Because I guess full disclaimer, like, even though I talk about sex a lot, I'm not an expert. I think I'd put myself more into the category of like an enthusiast. And I feel like I'm still very much learning how to really have like fun, pleasurable, fulfilling sex. So my question is, do you feel like as someone who talks about gay sex, do you feel like you're having great gay sex?
Right. I mean, I think, the conversation doesn't necessarily equal what's going on in my bedroom or necessarily the conversation just creates an open forum, which is really good. sometimes I feel, though, on our show, we'll create, like we just did sex goals for 2019, and created our own, goals that people are going to want to know about. And it has pushed me. But to answer your question, do you think am I having good sex? Yeah, I think sometimes I go out with that in mind, thinking, okay, I wish we could write off a lot of this stuff, like going out to some of these places, because it's all experimental, and then I can report back. But there's a guy that I've been we've been talking about him on my show. I used to know him in the 90s when I lived in San Francisco, and I was a go-go boy, and he was a bartender. Well, 20 years later, we've reconnected, and the sex was always great then, but it's even better now. So obviously we don't see each other all the time, but we have in throughout this whole holiday season. And what we did before has advanced. So, and it's still good, if not better. So from that standpoint, and I've been reporting it back on my show too. So it's, kind of hoping he doesn't listen and
get the little updates.
Yeah, right. But whatever. I mean, it's all good. So yeah, in some ways, currently, yes, sex is good for me. I would say, yeah.
Isn't it funny? Because I think if you asked me 10 years ago if I was having great sex, I'd be like, yeah, I'm having great sex. Like, I think if you how do you measure great? And then now, of course, now at 35, looking back at the sex I had when I was 25, I was like, wow, like this is so much better. And I can't help but think that in 10 years or 20 years, I'm going to look back and be like, you thought that was great sex? Girl, like wait till you find out what's coming down the road for you.
I mean, I think that there's always going to be times that, thank God we grow, hopefully, and with our shows and conversation, we're able to apply a lot of the tools that we talk about, and then just maturity in general. I was much more prudish 20 years ago than I am today, but so that's good news. But then you can't always control the cyclical time frame of, you have who are we having sex with. So there's going to be times, I think, when either you met somebody and you're having a lot of great sex with that one person, or maybe you're just more sexually active and you're meeting people. It's a timing thing too. So you might be ready, but are you really meeting those people or person to have great sex right now? It's kind of cyclical, right?
It is.
Yeah. Finn, I feel like because I've heard so much about the sex that you're having, I feel like we can
I haven't.
Yeah, I think Finn is having great sex.
Right. Good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I am, and then it's not, it's not always. It is, but it's a process. And I think, I love this question too. Like, what makes good sex? And so that is going to be different from person to person. And I think what is important for me to highlight is the sex is great if it's actually reflecting what I'm needing, wanting, desiring on the inside. So if I'm just kind of going through a pattern that I did when I was in my 20s, back then, like you mentioned, it's like, if you ask me, are you having good sex? Well, for where I was in my process, I was, but now with what I have in my life that I actually want, that wasn't, I wouldn't want that experience again, what I was doing in my life. But I am having really amazing sex right now. And it's interesting, like there'll be a night where I have just this ecstatic experience with my partner and it blows my mind. And then maybe the next night we have this like goofy, awkward sex where it's like, oh yeah, where's people, like it's not, it's not like this linear ascent into some sort of like, I don't know, religious type idea as much as it is like just I don't have anxiety about those awkward moments like I did when I was younger too, When I was younger, if I had an awkward moment with my boyfriend, I would have been I would have been more nervous and have anxiousness about that. So in general, yeah. But I've also just recently had some experiences where I thought, holy fuck, this is what I've wanted for my whole life. So that felt good.
Nice.
Yeah. Like this one moment actually standing out in my mind, it just feels like it's become like this image that I've thought about multiple times. It kind of symbolizes my desire physically and also just emotionally, spiritually, just really grateful.
What was the image?
Just this. I love that you're asking me this. I mean, I was getting fucked, and I had this moment where I let go of another layer of just being conscious of myself and my body, and just really being energetic. And there was a moment where I couldn't control the sounds that I was making. I was just in so much bliss. And I know that we've talked about the sounds before on here, and making sound and opening. I teach that a lot with the guys that I work with, is to open your mouth, make sound, and then I had this moment where I felt like, oh my God, I'm doing it in a deeper way than I've ever been able to do that. And it felt really freeing. And I just went on and on too. My orgasm lasted for a while, and I just kind of felt like I was possessed. It was amazing. And then that was followed by like the next night, we had more, it was like more awkward and just like kind of fun, and we were like goofy, and thought, well, it's not always the same, and that's okay.
You live with your partner, correct?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes, I mean, obviously if you're seeing the same person, night after night, it's good that you can still keep it up. But you're right. There's going to be times when it's probably going to be, like you said, goofy, and it's good that you guys have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
And do you even want it to be like feel possessed like every night? Like, do you really want to have that kind of like toe curling? Like,
yes, we do.
Every night.
I know. Well, but then you're right. I think it would make it almost like then it takes away the excitement of it if you have it all the time. I mean, even in sex therapy, they always say a very common thing is the wanting is more fun than the having sometimes, because it just charges us so much to want, and to be in desire. And then once we have what we want, then it's like, oh, well, now I want something again,
Yeah. I think a big difference between the sex that I have, I was thinking about this when I was writing notes for this podcast about the sex that I have now in my 30s versus the 20s, is that now when I'm having sex, I'm really communicative about like what it is that I want, and like really in a conversation with my partner, and like expressing my desires. And I was thinking, I was like, why didn't I do that when I was in my 20s? And like, I also feel like I probably didn't know what those desires were, because I hadn't explored, I hadn't asked questions, I hadn't tried things. So I wasn't asking for what I wanted, because I didn't even know what I wanted. So I just kind of throw myself into a sexual situation and hope for the best. And afterwards I'd be like, oh yeah, that was fun. That was good. So yeah, it's exciting. We'll see what the next decade brings.
Right.
I imagine it's going to bring you a lot of amazing experiences, like considering how much you're engaging with this process. I mean, that's what it is. Well,
we did a video, over a year ago with Norm, and Norm Self, who's at the time he was an 83-year-old man living in North Carolina, and he opened the video while he was jerking off, saying that at 83 years of age, I'm having the best sex of my life. And I think a lot of people like wondered how that could be possible. But if you can imagine at whatever point you are in your life, the knowledge and experience you've accumulated, add on how many decades until you reach 83, like at that point, my God, like that man must be having some really fucking great sex.
That's really beautiful. Yeah. It is. It's really sweet to hear that.
Yeah. It gives us all a lot to look forward to. So,
and also you just learn skills. I mean, you don't learn how to play an instrument just accidentally. You don't become a good lover just by like fumbling. If you're engaging with it and you're learning more about like speaking your desire and embodying it, you do get better and better at like cueing into someone else and attuning to them and just being a good lover over time.
Right. Practice.
But they say, what is it, like you have to do 10,000 hours of like a given like practice to become an expert at it, or something like that. I've probably been jerking off for 10,000 hours. So at this point, anyway, so let's talk about this week's Himeros.tv erotic video, which is titled Premature Ejaculation Control. So this video is a little bit different. We tend to do kind of a mix of content. Some of the videos are more narrative based or fantasy driven. We've done videos that show real sex between real boyfriends. This video with Norm, who is 83. I mean, there's a full range of content. But this week's video is instructional, and it's basically 12 steps or techniques to prevent premature ejaculation, or at least to better control when you come. And it features tantric sex coach Brad Amberhart, along with a real life lover of his, who also happens to have a really juicy, delicious cock, who experiences premature ejaculation in real life. If you guys want, you can watch a free preview at himeros.tv. Steve, I'm curious, like, what has your experience been with premature ejaculation, or anything that you want to share with us?
Not a lot personally with premature ejaculation. It's just maybe, other than like on the show we've had guests. Recently I talked to a woman she's a sex expert in Germany, and she was giving all sorts of different ways to explore your body that can really, going back to the whole porn conversation on how sometimes we just get online and 2 minutes later you've ejaculated and you're done with it. Mm-hmm. She was encouraging us. She said that's fine, and there's obviously nothing wrong with that. But if you want to kind of prolong the experience, you explore your body through, like, a lot of people don't realize that other parts, you have such amazing erogenous zones. Mm-hmm. And for some people that might think that their nipples aren't very sensitive, mine weren't in the past, and over the years have become sensitive just by people touching them, myself. And now I would say that they're actually very sensitive. And that was just a learned experience over time. And so I think, if you can explore your body, not only you can, create that ability to not just like reach for your dick and kind of jerk it off in a physical manner, you can actually prolong if you're having issues with premature ejaculation. And you can do it with partners, obviously, particularly couples that have been around for a long time that want to really, explore each other's body. I think can all help with people that are, I don't know if the word suffering, but, dealing with premature ejaculation. It can help with those issues.
Yeah, I think that's something we see in porn. Like, I think porn, watching, countless videos over and over again, it kind of conditions you in certain ways. And when you watch porn, it's very much focused on the genitals. Like, you don't see a lot of what you express, like the nipple play going on. It's just like, they're not necessarily working on the whole body. It's like cock, come, which
right.
The pervert's version of duck, goose, cock, come. And the reality is, like, all those pleasure points, all those erogenous zones, not only make it fun, but like, if you are looking to prolong ejaculation, then take some of the emphasis off of the genitals. And that was one of the tips too in this video. But in your personal life, have you ever been with like a partner who like felt like they came too quickly, or it was like an ongoing issue for them?
I think we all have been with people that have, just out of pure excitement. Maybe you're just really excited to be with that person, and of course that's forgivable. It's like, if I've never been with somebody that has had that issue on a long-term basis. I did watch the preview of your video for this, and I liked how they showed, it was set outside. It was this gorgeous setting. And then the guy was getting sucked off, which was hot. But then they mixed it up, right? They showed them kind of jumping around and then going back to that. I think those things are the things that I would just kind of recommend, or all the work you're doing. But personally, I haven't experienced premature ejaculation. Maybe not since I was, a kid.
Finn, is this something that comes up like in your sessions?
I've never actually had a personal experience with it, nor have I had any of the men that I work with talk about that as something that they experience. But I do hold this is my opinion, and I like to frame it in this way for me. When I hear, premature ejaculation, that sounds so medical. And I think that there is definitely like this, oh, something's wrong with me. And I know that we've actually had this discussion on here before. If you just don't give it a label that means anything, premature, I feel like it's more just like, oh, I come really quickly, and here's some ways I can slow that down if I want to. And not, because adding pressure to it actually is part of the mechanism that causes someone to do that really quickly. Anxiety and able to slow down and be in the body.
Yeah. Well, I've said this before too, that to me, like, I think there's nothing hotter than a guy who is like so turned on that he cannot even like contain his cum, that like, after just a few minutes of playing that he ejaculates. Like if he's so aroused, like that to me is totally hot. Also, like if I'm bottoming, like I don't want to get fucked for an hour. Like I'm fine.
Right.
Like I'm fine with like 5-10 minutes. Like, so if a guy comes quickly, I'm like, I'm good. Like,
I guess it only becomes a problem if the person that is coming quickly feels it's a problem, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit more of an issue sometimes. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but with heterosexual couples, because there's a nature of like, I think more differences in the way that the sexual expression is happening with women versus men. That's where it becomes a problem, where the woman's not feeling satisfied or attended to because the guy is just getting off really quickly and then not necessarily attuned to his female partner and what she actually needs for stimulation. That's not the same with gay men, I don't think. I mean, at least in my formative sexuality, a lot of it was really hustled in like situations where I was trying to come really fast. So if someone came in like a minute, I wouldn't be upset about that because I was whacking off at a urinal or something with somebody. Like it's a very different experience. So yeah, I think taking that medicalization of that word out of there is helpful for men. And if it's like, oh, if I want to slow down, here are some ways I can do that. I can slow down and touch my body elsewhere. And yeah.
Also, I think that's why men and women are just not meant to be together. It's just not natural. Also, I'm a believer in like sex not ending with ejaculation. So if a guy does come quickly, it doesn't mean like that, like that the sex needs to end then. And I think good sex or great sex isn't measured by ejaculations. Like
totally. I agree 100%. I even love, there's a psychological component that I love. It's like if I've already come to continue helping him get off, because then I'm like, yeah, I'm being used in this way. I don't know. I like it. So.
Or even, and then after he gets off, that the sex still doesn't need to end. It's interesting though, because I've had a lot of hookups where once the guy comes, like he's checked out, and like you can literally see it's like a different person. You see that person get like flooded with shame and with guilt, and like even beforehand, I've had situations like, oh, I'm gonna come over, like we're gonna hang out all night, we'll like watch movies and like make out, we'll have sex like all night, and then like 30 minutes into it, they come, and then they're like, you know what, I have to get up early tomorrow. I think I'm gonna I think I'm gonna head out. Yeah, but I also recognize, like, even in myself when I was first coming out and like growing up Catholic and all the shame and guilt that I had, like once the horniness subsided, it made room for all those other, less desirable feelings to come in. And I had something like this happen recently with a guy that I hooked up with, and you're right, like it's totally a turnoff. But when you work through that and you don't have the shame and guilt, you can recognize that after you come, it doesn't need to end, and you can rub your bodies together. You can make out. You can suck each other's soft dicks, whatever. Maybe you'll get hard again, and it can kind of.
You guys could have watched your Netflix show and then come back to it.
Right.
The bacon show.
Yeah, there's a lot more you can do. So, so having said all that, I guess it's easy for me to say that premature ejaculation isn't an issue because it's not something that like I personally experience. And but I'm sure there are plenty of guys out there who might come quickly and their partners might shame them for it. And to that end, I'm going to share a few tips from today's Himeros.tv video for us to discuss. And even if premature ejaculation isn't an issue that you experience, I think all these tips are just tips to have better sex in general. And if you are interested, maybe you don't come in 5 minutes, but you want to, some tips that can prolong your ejaculation even further, then these tips can do so. So in the full length video Brad does share 12 different tips. And I think one of the first tips is to breathe deeply, which to me, when I first watched it, I was like, wow, that just sounds so like incredible. Like, how is that even a thing? It sounds so basic. But when you think about it, like a lot of guys don't breathe during sex, and you can literally see people like holding their breath and like their bodies tensing up. And I think it is. I think the thought behind this is that when you breathe, it's more easy. It helps kind of the sexual energy circulate, and not just erupt out of your penis.
Breathing helps with everything, but
including living.
Yeah, well, I mean, meditation, yoga, all that. It's like long, deep breaths just help with keeping you in the moment, bringing you back to reality. Where if you notice when you're going to come, you have your heart's racing, right? So if you can kind of slow your heart rate down a little bit, bring you back into the moment, maybe that's what they're talking about, is that, it will relax you a little bit, relax that beating heart, which ultimately is leading to the premature ejaculation.
Yeah.
Finn, is this something that you encounter with guys?
Yes. Yes.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
It's a regular discussion. Yeah, because I think here's the thing: is I think there's a capacity for pleasure that we're like training ourselves to have, and a threshold that we're like used to approaching. And to slow it down, it's like it can feel like, oh, I'm dissipating this charge, and so we don't want to do that. We want to have an exciting charge, so it's like tensing into it. But if you have the trust and the patience to like keep doing that, which I recommend this regularly on here actually, and even in my own life. I haven't done this lately, but the self-pleasuring practice where you just do this on purpose and you slow it down and you breathe, and then it just keeps growing though. And if you just keep allowing that to grow, it continues to get to be like a really heightened charge. But I think, it's the first thing I notice, and is that people don't want to breathe, and they don't want to let go of that possibility of the orgasm, because then it's like, well, what if it doesn't come back, And I find myself thinking that every once in a while too, it's like, I'm like, oh, well, I'm fixating on coming and I'm clenching and I'm not breathing. And then I breathe. But, I'm used to like wanting to remember that idea. If I notice it ends up just shutting off the experience anyway. So yeah, I think that's one of the fundamental things that men struggle with, is like, if I dissipate this charge, then it's going to make it kind of suck. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, one of the coaches that we worked with, he did an exercise about intensifying your ejaculation and orgasm, and one of his tips not only was breathing, but to actually make sound and to groan and make noise, and it seemed like such a simple little tip, and I tried it myself, and it really, like, when you really surrender to it and stop going like this and really involve your whole body in deep breaths and making noise, it's really a fucking amazing.
Yeah, intense, definitely.
Another tip in the video for prolonging your ejaculation is to shake it out. Taylor Swift's favorite. Shake it out, shake it off.
Shake.
I don't know. We're bad gays.
Shake her off.
Taylor, shake it
off. Yeah. Okay. So I think, again, the thought behind that is I mean, literally in the video, they demonstrate like shaking their whole bodies out. And I think it again is kind of circulating that sexual energy, probably, right, Finn?
Yes, that's the intention. And to it's letting it move about, and also gets your blood going throughout your body too.
They had a tip that I really enjoyed, which was taking a break. And the reason I like this is I think what we see in porn, and what a lot of us think about in sex, is this very linear line of like, it's like start to finish, and the very beginning to finishing being the ejaculation, and that it's this straight line that happens. And like in reality, I think fun sex can happen kind of in waves, instead of thinking it as a straight linear line, and kind of have these ups and downs, these undulations, I mean, last week the podcast episode was about edging, which really embodied a lot of this. So yeah, it's kind of like building it up and then coming down, taking a nap, relaxing, like cradling each other in your arms. It also makes it very intimate. And then starting up again. And if you are looking to prolong ejaculation, it's going to do that, but it's also going to make it just really fun and connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you a believer, Finn, in naps in sex?
Naps, yeah.
Yeah. Steve, how have you experienced this in the sex that you've had?
Napping or
Kind of the undulation, like the waves, having it come and go in waves.
yeah, I mean, I think if definitely like the guy that I've was talking about earlier. This is probably like when you're spent time with somebody and know them a little bit better. Probably like Finn can relate to this because you have a boyfriend, and in that if you have that kind of time where you guys are spending the whole night together, yeah, I think that's hot to just kind of lie in each other's arms and intertwined, and then kind of come back to it as you guys sort of like wake up, or it could be like in the middle of the day. That can be really hot too. So yeah, definitely, because the intimacy that you have intertwined like that or lying on each other's bodies is hot in my mind. And when you finally do wake up, there's a good chance that you guys are going to be ready to go again. So
Totally.
yeah. So I think it's hot.
You might just have to make a quick run to the bathroom to freshen up the douche, you know?
Yeah.
Keep that hole fresh.
Yeah, like it adds a complexity, you know. It's like it's another level of experience, and that definitely creates more sensation, but also just more. But I've done that, you know, in the past with someone that I wasn't really close with emotionally, and I didn't like it. You know, like he was feeling more like doing that, like taking a nap and the cuddling, and I was not in a space to want to share that much intimacy. You know, I wanted just the sexual aspect. So I think it kind of just depends on how you want to show up in that, but definitely.
Was it like a hookup, like someone's house you went to? And
well, it was a guy that I was dating, and he was more wanting an intimate overlap, and I needed to have a partition there at that point in my life. And so once it got that way, I did sleep in his arms, but I felt really uncomfortable about it, just emotionally. And I woke up and just jet as soon as I could, you know, and I just didn't really feel good about that at that point in my life, but I do now as a practice, and I don't think it has to be with just a partner, but I do love that with him, especially. I'm fine if the sex goes into a nap and then comes back. That's beautiful. I love those kind of days when it's really slow and adventurous like that with all those textures.
Yeah, I've definitely had experiences like this, like intimate nap experiences, relaxing in each other's arms with hookups. In hindsight, I hope that it was fun for them as it was for me. That I should have maybe checked in a little bit more. But if you guys want to see the full length video of this, you can go to himeros.tv. It's called Premature Ejaculation Control. So we're going to answer a few questions from the audience. If you guys have any questions at home, you can send them to davey@daveywavey.tv. All right. So question number 1. This is a long one. So first, I want to say thank you for your podcast and your videos on YouTube. I'm in my early 20s, and it is really embarrassing, but I have never really had any sort of romantic relationship. I've always been focused on work and school, and have struggled a lot with self-acceptance and body image issues in the past. Now that I'm starting to feel at ease with those parts of my life, and I'm starting to put myself out there, I'm finding that I'm really far behind. As in, I've never had a real date, I've never been kissed, and I've never had sex. I have been able to use dating apps and get dates and talk to guys, but it is very awkward trying to explain that I have zero experience sexually, and even more awkward when I go on dates and end them with a hug because I'm too nervous and unsure to actually kiss my date. I've had guys and apps offer to teach me the ropes, but something in me seems really against it, as I'm either not attracted to them or afraid that I'll become attached and that they won't care. My question is, what do you recommend that I do in my situation? Right now, I'm just meeting guys and getting more comfortable hanging out and dating until I'm ready to really dive in. But part of me wants to just get all of my first out of the way with a random guy and get enough experience to be a bit more confident with guys. What do I do? Any help would be amazing. Any suggestions, guys?
I want to just give him a hug.
Yeah, I mean, at first thought, you know, I think he's doing the right thing by, at least he is meeting up with guys and going out, and he's not totally closed off. And that's half the battle, just, you know, getting enough nerve to meet up with people. Nobody said there's a timeline that everyone has to adhere to, where somebody is a lot earlier, some's later. But if he wasn't going out there at all, I would say, you know, you have to kind of dive in at some point. I think you'll kind of know when it's the right time to. That being said, though, at some point you have to. I wouldn't go the other extreme, like he was saying, like getting it all out of the way.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I just think that could be a little extreme, and there's not. You can hook up with a really, you know, awful guy that, yeah, it just would be a bad experience. So I don't know. But it sounds like he's doing the right thing, and you know, diving in a little bit more, maybe like with the kissing thing, could be a good start.
It's baby steps.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah, I say go slow. And also, you know, it's like, to me, again, I'm taking it to like the inward experience. It's like, you got to be okay with where you're at. So if you're still really struggling there, it's going to show up in the way you meet other guys. And, you know, it's totally fine that you're in a space right now where this is new for you, because you were focusing on school and work. And maybe a lot of people are focusing on, you know, maybe dating, and they don't know how to get their school and work together. Who knows, you know? So this is just where you are on your individual journey. And if you just make that okay with yourself and disclose that to guys that you're interested in, and not guard that, you know, and be awkward about it, then I think you'll make a better choice. Because if someone can't understand that or isn't patient with you where you're at in your process, then they're not a good prospect to have sex with.
And it sounds like he's getting guys that are willing to show him the ropes and that like recognize where he's at, and they're you will find people that are okay with that.
Totally.
Is that something that at 35 I want to do in my life? No, but then I'm not the right partner for you. I think the reality is there's probably a lot of gay men that in their early 20s or 30s or 40s or, you know, even further in life are in similar situations that
Totally.
You know, we don't. Straight people get to do all this in high school and middle school and get all these, you know, dating experiences under their belts. Like for us, you know, being in the closet, coming out later, it I think kind of stunts some of those experiences. So for what it's worth, I think that like there's plenty of people who are in the same boat as you and people who are much older.
Totally.
But I will also say that, you know, like as cliche as it is, like you will, you know, like at some point you do have to kind of dive in, because and there's no guarantee that like you're not going to get hurt, because you will. Like you will make mistakes. You will probably get your heart broken. You may get attached to a guy that doesn't feel the same way, but that's, you know, that's part of the adventure that is, you know, exploring your sexuality and relationships and connections with other people. And I'm sure all of us have had our hearts broken, and yet we would still say that it's all worth it.
Absolutely.
totally. Yes, absolutely.
And the pain of not going for what you want can be just as intense or more than the pain of, you know, like, yeah. So it's painful either way. Just living can bring about that. So not going for what you want isn't also a reward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You will get hurt. You'll make mistakes. At times it will suck, and yet it will still all be worth it.
Yeah. Or you might meet that one guy if he's putting on there like meeting up for dates. You know, he might meet somebody on there that is willing to take that time to explore with him slowly, and you would never know that if you didn't really, you know, try. But it does sound like he's doing the right thing already, and keep it up, I would say.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. I'm only 15 years old, and I've been watching your videos for about a year now and have been inspired to try new things in my bedroom when jerking off or trying to turn myself on by touching myself in different places around my body. But the one place I want to explore is my ass, obviously, to try to stimulate my prostate, etc. But of course, as you know, I have hit some walls because I don't have access to an anal douche or sex toys to help me with this. It would be much appreciated if you could help me find ways to achieve this and take time to respond to my email. Thanks. So first of all, if you're 15, I'm hoping you're talking about my YouTube videos, not Himeros.tv, because your parents or guardians are not going to be happy when that credit card bill comes in and they see a charge. At the same time, I get that it's a little bit like taboo to talk about sex and pleasure with people who are under the age of 18, but like I honestly wish that when I was younger I had access to like wisdom and knowledge, and that I was able to, you know, start exploring myself in ways that I didn't until much later in life. But, I also recognize that that's a population that has specific kind of, maybe more vulnerabilities and needs special consideration. But I mean, I wish I had a podcast like this to listen to when I was 15. Anyway, to answer your question, I would say that you can still explore your butt in the shower. Like, you don't need an anal douche for that. Just wash up your butt, wash your fingers, and you do your little exploration, and then give yourself a good wash afterwards. I also, when I was what's that, Finn?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, you can get them. You can go to like a CVS or Walgreens and get like a fleet.
An enema.
Yeah, dump out the saline and fill it up with water.
You can do that. I used to use a Poland Spring bottle with a nipple on top. I'm just gonna stick it up there. When I was a poor college student, Amazon hadn't been invented, and I wasn't gonna spend $20 on the douche. So you just kind of make the best of what you got.
The shower's a great suggestion, though, just because you're already private, so you can kind of explore without having anybody come in.
Yeah.
And like you said, it is clean, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, and if you get a little bit of shit on your fingers, like, this is self-exploration. Like,
yeah, but you can go to like a drugstore and get like a fleet pretty cheaply. You just dump out the water or the saline in it, because you don't want to do that. And
yeah, but if I was 15, I'd be so terrified that my mom was going to find an enema under my mattress.
When you like, I have a problem, I just can't poop, and I feel so embarrassed about it, I couldn't tell you about it.
So yeah, there are some tips for you to enjoy. Thank you for the question. Question number 3. I've been following your videos and spicing things up after 20 years. I need some sex toy tips. And you give me your top picks for your favorite toys. So this is a question for all of us to share some of your favorite sex toys. Steve, do you want to start us off?
There's this one glove that comes to mind that it's like, it looks like a magician's glove. It's satin, and it's so funny. I know somebody brought it to a party that I threw. It's battery operated, and it literally vibrates, and it's got different vibration levels, and literally you touch any part of your body and you're stimulated to the max. And so I can get you the name later and email you, but it is for sexual exploration. It's a really great toy, just because things like your nipples, or even like the back of your neck, the back of your legs, there's so many erogenous areas around, not just the actual anal area, but the surrounding areas that can just be invigorated. And so this glove thing, and it can be fun to do it with a partner too. So that's like the first one that comes to my mind.
But so question, does each like finger have like a different attachment on it, or is it just all kind of the same?
No, it's like, it's all the kind of the same. It's just like this satin glove with this battery pack that's built in. It's a little clumsy looking, but it's fun, and everyone is always like surprised by it, or think like, wow, this is amazing. So it's a good one for sexual exploration, I think.
I almost imagine like one finger had like a dildo on it. The next finger has like a butt
That's
plug.
the advanced one. Yeah, not out yet, but
the other finger electrocutes you. Like there's a different experience in each one. That sounds fun. I've never seen that.
Glove.
Finn, what's your favorite toy?
I was thinking about that. It's I haven't been in a phase where I haven't played with a lot of toys right now. I will say my long-term answer to that is like, your best sex toy is your imagination, because it's going to hold the keys to whatever it is that you want. And asking
my eyes.
Yeah, but this question, I don't know what it is that this person is into. So it's like, if I said, this thing or that thing, it could be like, fuck that, or somebody recommended a sex toy to me. But I will, as far as like actual pragmatic advice, I did use the electricity play kit for a while that I was really into. It was a short-term thing that I was into, but the violet wand, that was pretty cool, because it was so different than what I'd experienced, is creating certain electrical waves and patterns, and you can get all kinds of attachments to put it up your butt, or a sound to put it in your dickhead. But
what about the puppy tail thing?
yeah, that's cool too. I like that. Yeah, I love puppy stuff. All the above.
Did you found one that actually wagged though, right?
It doesn't wag, it vibrates.
Oh.
Yeah. And actually, the report on that is that it vibrates really intensely. So I don't know. I can't necessarily recommend that one in full confidence because I haven't had it up my ass yet. But I love the look of it, and I do think it looks amazing just in his butt. So
I actually, so as a beginner recommendation, which is fairly inexpensive, there's a kit that I have called the Colt Anal Trainer Kit, and it comes as 3 different sized butt plugs. So it's like the Goldilocks of like butt plugs. And you get to try like each one to find what's just right. And if you're beginning, you start with the thin one. And I like it because it's especially fun for like if you're used to just jerking off and watching porn. Like you can just kind of put it up there, and even just having the butt plug in you while you're jerking off is gonna like introduce a whole different layer to the experience. But something more advanced is the Vibe Ditto. It had a set of these. These are a little bit pricier. I think they're like $130. But it's a like vibrating prostate toy that it has a remote, but it also connects through your smartphone. And so you and your partner, can be in different places, and you can each have one up your butt and control the other's like vibrations.
Wow. What is this called?
The Vibe Ditto.
Right.
I did a video with Blake Mitchell where we did an interview. I was interviewing him, and he had one in me, and I had one in him. And then like if I didn't like his answer, I would like turn up the intensity, or I guess if you do like the answer, turn up the intensity. And it was a really distracting interview.
Fun.
But a fun toy. Yeah.
And also I would say like the like workshops and like play shops to experiment with like other levels of things it's not necessarily a toy, but being in if he's into any kind of kink like classes, that can be really fun. I've been to just like a ropes class and really enjoyed learning in that kind of space and adding confidence to different ways to play. There's all kinds of those things in my area. I don't really know, I don't think they're available everywhere. And but yeah.
By the way, Finn, if you do buy the Vibe Ditto, I'm not getting a kickback for this, but you can use discount code WAVY at adammail.com. And I think you get like 50% off or 30% off.
I'm writing that down too.
Yeah.
Wavy.
Discount code WAVY. All right. So awesome. Those are our questions. Next week, we're going to be talking about a video titled Face Fuck Me. Steve, where can people find more of you?
On all social media platforms at Talk About Gay Sex, and our podcast is available on all podcasting platforms like iTunes and Google Play and so forth. But yeah, at Talk About Gay Sex on Twitter, Instagram, or just go to our website, talkaboutgaysex.com.
Awesome. And Finn, where can people find more of you?
Airware. No, FinnDeerhart.com, FinnDeerhart.com. Please reach out to me.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys all for being here. Thank you everyone for listening at home. And as always, more to come.